Hello and welcome to E&B Paving. We're excited to have you join our award-winning team. My name is Todd Audio, and let's get started. This safety orientation is meant to provide an overview of the safety policies of E&B Paving. It's not intended to be a complete compilation of all regulations. You are required to adhere to all federal, state, and local laws, rules, and regulations. But remember, your E&B safety team is here to assist you. We're committed to providing a workplace that's incident and injury-free every hour of every day. Our commitment to safety starts with the highest levels of management and runs throughout the entire company. So let's begin with our safety principles and expectations.
We believe that safety is a condition of employment and that everyone has a role to play in providing a safe, harassment-free, healthy, and productive workplace. We have a disciplinary program that includes verbal warnings up to and including termination of employment. All employees have the right to be informed of hazards in their workplace, participate in all safety-related activities, request information, report concerns, discuss those concerns, and appeal decisions of management. E&B Paving has a zero tolerance for discrimination, harassment, and violence within our organization. Each and every employee has the right to report any violations without fear of reprisal. All employees have the right to stop any task that they feel is unsafe to themselves or others. Employees have the responsibility not only for their own safety, but that of their coworkers and the public. All employees are expected to report unsafe conditions or hazards and to report all work-related injuries when they occur, regardless of severity. If an employee is unsure of how to perform a task safely, stop and ask questions. We at E&B are committed to providing a drug-free workplace. Drugs and/or alcohol abuse directly correlates to higher absenteeism, poor productivity, incidents, and fatalities. Our drug-free workplace and drug testing policy prohibits any employee from reporting to work under the influence of drugs or alcohol. Our drug testing policy includes testing for the following: pre-employment testing, reasonable suspicion testing, post-incident testing, and random testing. Employees who possess specialty training certifications such as CCO, First Aid and CPR, OSHA 10 or 30-hour, Flagger, along with any other required training should provide the company with copies of such certifications for the company records. Toolbox talks will be done on a weekly basis and documented by the foreman. E&B Paving requires that any employee performing flagging operations have a valid flagger certification from either the union or ATSA, and that a copy of their card be on file with the safety department. We expect our employees to report to work dressed in a professional manner. This includes wearing full-length pants, shirts with a minimum of 4-inch sleeve, leather work boots, and no offensive material on their clothing. We provide employees with all the necessary personal protective equipment, or PPE, for the tasks they are asked to perform. We expect all employees to use the proper PPE for the task and ask for the PPE if they don't have it. ANSI-approved hard hats are required at all times. They must be worn brim forward. Hard hats should be inspected for damage and replaced at least every 5 years. The suspension should be inspected for damage and replaced at least every 12 months. Z87 safety glasses are required at all times. Prescription safety glasses must have the Z87 stamp in them and must have side shields. Clear or amber lenses shall only be worn at night. Clear safety glasses shall be worn under welding hoods. When performing tasks that produce flying debris, a face shield must be worn in addition to your safety glasses. Proper gloves should be worn to protect your hands from hazards associated with the task being performed. This could include cut resistance, chemical resistance, and/or leather gloves. Work boots with a minimum 5-inch upper are required at all times. We recommend safety-toed boots be worn but are not required. When operating equipment that could hit their feet, employers are required to have metatarsal guards if their boots are not safety-toed. ANSI Class 3 safety vests shall be worn at all times. All vests must be zipped to provide the 360-degree amount of reflectivity. Class 3 clothing may be worn in lieu of a safety vest. All vests and/or clothing must be washed or replaced if it becomes soiled or the reflectivity becomes compromised. Hearing protection is required when the decibel level is between 80 and 85 decibels, and double hearing protection is required above 100 decibels. Only employees who have been medically released by a licensed healthcare professional, have proper training, and that have been fit tested will be issued a respirator for activities where air quality cannot be improved by other means. Examples may include lead, asbestos, and silica. Now let's take a moment to do a PPE recap. Mandatory items can include a hard hat, safety glasses, foot protection, and Class 3 visibility. Other items that may be needed could include hearing protection, upgraded eye protection, respiratory protection, and hand protection. It is the responsibility of all employees to help with housekeeping on all of our jobs. Poor housekeeping not only reflects negatively on the professionalism of our company and your crew, but poses a safety hazard to everyone on the project. All employees should be aware of the slip, trip, and fall hazards around them. Do not carry loads you cannot see over. Keep walking working surfaces free of debris and slippery substances. 3 points of contact should be used when getting onto or off of equipment. In addition, the employee must face the equipment when mounting or dismounting. All exposed rebar, form pins should be capped at all times. Employees must be cautious when working around heavy equipment and/or materials to avoid pinch points for their hands and crush points for their bodies. Always be aware of your surroundings and take extra caution not to get between a piece of equipment and a fixed point where you could be caught in or between. Employees are required to report all incidents, injuries, and near misses to their supervision immediately. It does not matter how minor it may be or whether the injury requires medical treatment or not. Everything must be reported. If a serious incident occurs, every effort should be made to maintain the scene until documented by the safety department. All foremen and supervisors shall know the location of the nearest medical facility. Emergency numbers shall be posted on the job site bulletin boards. Unless a life or death situation, all injured workers must be treated at a company-approved medical facility. All incidents, injuries, and near misses are to be reported immediately to your supervisor and the safety department. Pre-job briefings, which could include a job hazard analysis, toolbox talk, or safety huddle, will be conducted by the foreman or supervisor. All employees are required to attend, and participation is key. Foremen and supervisors should use the daily pre-job briefing to discuss the scope of work for the day, identify the known hazards and what actions or tools should be used to mitigate those hazards. Any employee with a medical condition that may incapacitate them and require immediate treatment during their shift, which could include allergies, diabetes, heart condition, should consider making sure that at least one member of their crew is aware of the condition and the location of any immediate treatment options, which could include an EpiPen, blood sugar testing kit, or nitroglycerin pills. Before an employee is allowed to drive any company vehicle, he or she must be cleared by the Human Resources Department. Seatbelt use is required at all times when operating or riding in a vehicle. First aid kits and fire extinguishers shall be available in all foreman's vehicles. Drivers should verify that all loads are secure prior to moving the vehicle. Median crossovers are only to be used when both inside lanes are closed to traffic. All vehicles on the job site must have working strobe lights. Use of cell phones for personal reasons is prohibited while working. Hands-free cell phone use while driving is allowed, and no personal listening devices, such as radios or MP3s, are allowed while working. The use of portable electronics for personal reasons is strictly prohibited while actively flagging. Communications with flaggers during active operations should be kept to a minimum and should be related to work activities. For all night work, if not behind barrier wall, ANSI Type 3 pants or gaiters must be worn by all employees. In addition, reflective tape must be on all hard hats. Employees are not allowed to sit or rest on top or against barrier wall while next to live traffic. All hand and power tools must be inspected before use. If defective, they must be repaired before they are used again. If immediate repair is not possible, they must be tagged out of service until repair can be made. When working above walking and working surfaces, all tools should be in a holder or secured from displacement. Guards should never be removed from the power tools. If you find a power tool without a guard, tag it out of service and report it to your foreman. Remember, you must always wear the proper PPE for the tool you are using. Any employee using a grinder must have a face shield in addition to their safety glasses. Fall protection is required when working at a height of 6 feet or more, or 4 feet at fixed plant locations. Guardrail systems should be used when possible to mitigate the fall hazard. When a guardrail system isn't feasible, employees must use 100% fall arrest systems. This shall consist of a full body harness, retractable, fall limiter, and an anchor point rated for 5,000 pounds per person. If using a standard lanyard, you must consider the total fall distance, including the height of the employee, the deceleration distance of the lanyard, and a 3-foot safety factor. The use of retractable fall limiters is preferred. All personal fall arrest systems must be inspected by the employee before use. All harnesses should be adjusted for proper fit. Employees must have 100% fall protection at all times. Motorized equipment should be used as a last resort. When used in this manner, the engine should be turned off, the parking brake set, and the key should be in the possession of the employee using the equipment as an anchor point. An employee required to enter a confined space or act as an attendant for a confined space entry must be trained in confined space entry before they are allowed to perform the task. For confined space requiring a permit, the permit is only valid until the end of that shift, and it must be replaced with a new permit each shift. Testing of the air quality in a confined space must be performed before entry. After lunch period and after an extended period of being out of the confined space, attendants are to perform no other tasks. Warning signs or devices shall be posted to keep unauthorized personnel out. For all excavation activities of 5 feet or more, a competent person must be on site. All hazards associated with the excavation must be covered on the pre-job briefing with all employees who could be exposed to the hazards. All spoil piles must be kept at least 2 feet from the edge. Any excavation 20 feet or more must be designed by a professional engineer. Some type of protection system, which could include benching, sloping, shoring, or trench boxes, are required for all excavations 5 feet or greater. All excavations must be kept free from water. Safe means of ingress and egress, which could include a ladder or steps, is required for all excavations over 4 feet and must be provided every 25 feet. Barricades, warning lights, shall be placed around unattended excavations. All ladders must be inspected before use. Always use 3 points of contact on a ladder. All straight or extension ladders must have a safety feet and be secured when in use. Never use a step ladder as a straight ladder. All step ladders must have legs fully extended and braced in the lock position. Only one person at a time may be permitted on the ladder. Metal ladders are not allowed. A ladder must extend 3 feet above the landing area. A 4-to-1 ratio should be used when placing a ladder for climbing. Only employees who have been through the E&B aerial lift safety training shall work from or operate an aerial lift. Employees working from an aerial lift must be tied off. Be aware of overhead power lines or other obstructions while working on an aerial lift. A pre-shift inspection must be conducted prior to using the lift. The inspection booklet must stay in the equipment. No hoisting materials with the lift. Employees must stay in the basket. No climbing, sitting on, or working from the rails. Only qualified employees shall be allowed to work on electrical equipment. All cords and welding leads shall be inspected before each use. GFCIs are required on all extension cords and portable power tools. Always use proper lockout and tagout procedures when working on an energy source. This could be mechanical or electrical. Remember, if it's not grounded, it's not dead. Always keep the minimum distance from all power lines. Work should not be performed closer than 10 feet from any power line. Foremen and supervisors should identify all overhead power lines in relation to the day's work activity. Make sure the overhead power line signage is in place. Use spotters when crossing under overhead power lines with equipment. All employees must stay clear of any piece of equipment or vehicle that comes in contact with an overhead power line. The current can flow through the ground in a ripple effect and pose a hazard to employees on the ground. All booms and buckets shall be in the stow position with crossing under overhead power lines. Any equipment with attachments that have the potential to violate the minimum approach distances shall remove or stow such equipment prior to crossing under or near an overhead power line. All appropriate PPE must be worn when performing welding or cutting tasks. All equipment and PPE must be inspected before each use. All combustible materials should be removed from the welding area, and if this is not possible, then a fire extinguisher and a fire watch should be immediately available and remain 30 minutes after the activities have ended. Always wear clear safety glasses under your welding hood. All hoses must have a flashback arrestor at the regulator end. When in use, cylinders shall be on an appropriate cart and always be in the upright position. When not in use, all cylinders shall be stored upright, caps in place, and secured with a chain. Oxygen and acetylene cylinders must be stored at least 20 feet apart. This goes for both full and empty cylinders. No smoking or ignition source is allowed within 25 feet of fuel oil storage or 50 feet from flammable liquid storage. All fires, no matter what size, must be reported to the safety department immediately. If a fire extinguisher is used, it must be replaced within 24 hours. Pull the pin, aim the nozzle at the base of the fire, squeeze the handle, sweep the nozzle back and forth at the base of the fire, moving from the front to the back. If you can't put out a fire with one fire extinguisher, Get out and call the fire department. Only employees having completed the E&B Paving forklift safety training are authorized to operate a forklift. Pre-shift inspections must be completed before each use. The pre-shift inspection booklet must remain in the forklift. All forklifts must have a legible load chart available for the operator. No moving of employees on forklifts. Seat belt use is mandatory. Always travel with the forks in the lowest point that allow good visibility. Remember to grip the wheel securely and brace yourself with your feet if the forklift starts to tip over. Never jump off of the forklift. Always determine the weight of a load and use the proper device and/or equipment for the size. Never walk under or allow anyone else to walk under a raised load. Keep hands and feet clear of pinch points when handling materials. Lift with your legs, not your back, and get help with any load over 50 pounds that can't be lifted mechanically. A qualified rigger must be present for all lifts. Inspect all rigging equipment prior to each use. Remove all damaged rigging and hoisting equipment from service and tag out until repaired or destroyed. Safety latches and positive locking devices shall be used while rigging and hoisting. Remove defective rigging and hoisting equipment. Do not attempt to make a lift unless the hoist rope and rigging are free of kinks and twists. Center the hook over the load in such a manner as to prevent swinging. Always inspect your rigging before each use and document your inspection. Center the hook over the load in such a manner as to prevent swinging. Do not make any side pull. Always inspect your rigging before each use and document your inspection. E&B Paving requires that all crane operators have a CCO certification. Pre-shift inspections are required and the forms must stay with the equipment. The crane operator has final say on all lifts. No one is permitted to be under a suspended load. Only qualified signal persons shall signal the operator. All swing radiuses should be barricaded. Operators must be qualified to operate a piece of equipment and must inspect the equipment before each use. Seat belts are required in equipment with a cab or rollover protection. Always face your equipment and use 3 points of contact when climbing onto or off of the machine. Hard hat use is mandatory in open cab equipment. Never allow anyone to ride on your equipment unless it is designed for that purpose. Keep the equipment free of debris. Backup alarms and strobes must be in good working order when required. Use a spotter if backing with limited visibility. Survey the area for power lines or any other overhead obstruction before beginning work. If you lose sight of your spotter, stop immediately. Spotters, stay clear of the machine and maintain eye contact with the operator at all times. During fueling operations, the equipment must be shut down with a bucket or blade on the ground and secured. Anyone dispensing fuel must wear the appropriate PPE. All spills, large or small, shall be reported to the supervisor and safety department immediately. The globally harmonized system of classification and labeling of chemicals, or GHS, provides for uniform guidance on safety data sheets, or SDSs, for all chemicals. E&B Paving has all SDSs readily available on its company website. All employees must be informed of how to access the online SDSs. All containers must be labeled with what the contents are. You have the right to know what chemicals you are working with or exposed to in the work environment. Everyone working with or around hazardous materials has the right and responsibility to know the hazards and the proper safe work procedures for all hazardous materials being used or produced in their work area. Bloodborne pathogens are substances that are carried by the blood or other bodily fluids and cause illness or injury to the body. Many viruses and bacteria are bloodborne. Some common ones are hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and HIV. Always treat blood and body fluids as if they are contaminated, because you don't know if they are. Remember, if it's not your body fluid, stay out of it. All foremen and above have CPR and first aid training and have the necessary PPE to deal with body fluids. Only trained employees should deal with blood or body fluids. Do not handle contaminated items whenever possible. Discard contaminated items, including gloves or clothing, in containers marked with biohazard symbols. Keep your hands out of your mouth, nose, eyes, ears, and or any other opening in your body. Wash your hands each time you remove your medical gloves and as frequently as possible. Do not let contaminants come in contact with any open cut or wound. Hand sanitizers are also recommended. Each crew shall have at least one person that is first aid and CPR trained with access to a first aid kit at all times. Injuries requiring treatment beyond first aid shall be accompanied to the healthcare facility by a safety person or a company representative. Report injuries immediately to a supervisor in the E&B Paving Safety Department regardless of severity. Weather shall be monitored by construction supervisors and the contractor safety professional on site. Evacuation decisions shall be made with enough time to safely shut down, secure, and move personnel along with equipment to the closest safe zone. Threat of violence response. Do not escalate. Diffuse the situation to the best of your abilities with no arguing. Look for an opportunity to back away. Ask for an opportunity to go and get your supervisor. Notify your supervision and or local authorities if weapons are present or if there is a serious threat of violence. Protect yourself above all else. No guns or weapons allowed on the worksite. Security. Use the buddy system. Let someone know where you are. Secure all equipment and materials each day. Make sure all open excavations or other hazards are barricaded and secured. Keep personal items and tools secured. Cold-related emergencies. Hypothermia occurs from prolonged exposure to cold air and or water. This condition may result in serious bodily harm or even death. Smart planning, such as layering clothing, waterproof boots and gloves, may give you an advantage against hypothermia. Symptoms of hypothermia may include shivering, vague, slow, slurred speech, memory lapses, incoherence, abnormal behavior, immobile or fumbling hands, undue stumbling or lurch gait, drowsiness, exhaustion, too tired to get up after a rest, unnoticed loss of clothing such as hat or gloves. Prevention of hypothermia. Wear warm clothing and dress in layers. Keep clothing dry. Insulate all areas of the body, especially in high heat loss areas such as the head, neck, armpits, and side of chest and groin. Refrain from alcohol use the night before a shift. A heat-related emergency is the body's way of saying it is having a hard time maintaining a normal temperature. The heart pumps faster and blood is diverted from the organs to the skin. Sweating increases and the person may begin to experience heat cramps, heat exhaustion, and finally, heat stroke. Just because a person's clothes or skin are dry does not mean they are not sweating. It takes the body about 2 weeks to adjust to heat. Employees should continually take in fluids, water or Gatorade, throughout their shift to guard against the heat-related emergency. Remember, your body needs electrolytes, so if you're only drinking water, you could still have a heat-related emergency. Switch on and off with a drink mix such as Gatorade that will replenish your electrolytes. Review. Each crew shall have at least one member first aid trained. No guns, explosives, open fires, or fireworks are allowed. No roughhousing, practical jokes, and no gambling. All spills, no matter how large or small, must be reported immediately. Have a fire extinguisher immediately available when refueling. Report all incidents, injuries, and near misses immediately to your supervision and the safety department. 100% fall protection is required anytime you are above 6 feet and 4 feet for fixed plant locations. Personal vehicles shall not be allowed on site unless approved by E&B Paving. Never overfill a fuel tank. Remember to always be aware of overhead power lines. Get out of the vehicle or equipment, look for yourself, and use a spotter. Please take a moment to review your E&B Safety and Human Resources team.
At E&B Paving, we place a high value on the safety and the well-being of our workforce. We are committed to be incident and injury-free every hour, every day. And once again, welcome to E&B Paving.